Hey, butthead, are you right wing or left wing?
Beavis, I like buffalo wings. You're in the muck.
Yeah, in the mire.
Muck.
The mire.
Muck.
The mire.
Hi, and welcome back to Through the Muck and the Mire. I'm your host, David Hollifield. I guess I should start off by saying I'm sorry. I guess not really, but explain my hiatus because I haven't posted in about 2 months or close to it. There's a few reasons for it. There was, I was coming to the end of the semester for law school. It was around Thanksgiving, so holidays came up, and then winter, and also winter holidays, Christmas came up. So I just wasn't feeling it, and politics it had me like, kind of depressed, and I still not like depressed, like I'm not like, I'm living my life, happily, but as far as politics are concerned, it is depressing. So I just kind of didn't feel like doing this for a little while. The election, the way that people responded to the election, and just the general public disappoints me. So anyways, here we are a couple months later. Donald Trump supporters stormed the Capitol, and now media, different outlets, social media outlets are censoring Trump and his supporters. And I did quotations for censoring because they're like, I think it's bad. I think it's a terrible thing. And I'm being 100% honest. I think that it's a terrible thing what they're doing because, like during the riots, we said, or during the protests and the riots, Black Lives Matter, all of that stuff, we were like, Martin Luther King quote, riots are the voice of the unheard. And so what these companies right now are doing is they're silencing people. So what is going to be the natural result of that? The natural result of silencing people means that they're unheard. Whether you care for what they're saying at all, doesn't matter. You're silencing people and they're going to riot. So I don't agree with Trump at all. I think he's a tyrant. I think his supporters are tyrants. However, I get it. I understand why they're doing it. Like, these people are inciting violence, and they're literally trying to overthrow a democratic election that they have yet to prove was fraudulent the way that they're saying it is. So I get it. Like, Facebook and all these companies are like, I guess to a certain extent, if they let Donald Trump continue to spread this type of rhetoric and his followers to spread this rhetoric, make, inflammatory remarks and, again, incite violence, then they maybe feel culpable or responsible for it. So there's that. And then there's also the fact that they have the right to do it. Conservatives and Republicans have always talked about, private companies' rights. We in America, we treat corporations as people. We extend the Constitution to them. That's why CPACs are allowed to donate ridiculous amounts of money to politicians, because we call that a First Amendment right to free speech, which I don't know. I mean, that's something that people debate about all the time. But at the end of the day, that's how we treat it. That's what we push, as a free market economy and as a constitutional republic. We say that corporations deserve to have the same rights as people, and that, the Constitution extends to them. And the Constitution doesn't limit them the way that people apparently believe it does. People were like, oh, well, the First Amendment, you're violating Donald Trump's First Amendment. But in reality, they're not violating Donald Trump's First Amendment, because the First Amendment is only geared towards the government limiting your freedom of speech. You can't go into a store or something like that and demand that, like, they really don't even have to let you in the store. Like, they can literally just tell you to leave for no reason. You can't force Walmart. If you make a product, let's say I make fishing rods, I can't go to Walmart and be like, hey, you have to sell my product. You have to put my product out. So Apple and Google and all these companies that are now getting rid of Parler, you can't force them to put their app on their products. It's just that's pretty much like the bedrock principle of a lot of stuff that Republicans and conservatives have been pushing for years. And I agree with it. I 100% agree with it. I feel like these companies should and do have these rights, but they're not using them wisely. Like, just because you can do something doesn't mean that you should. And we, I think, are about to find out, how nasty this shit's really going to get. And it's not going to be pretty at all. I really don't think so. I would like to hope that, most Trump supporters by this time, or most Republicans, because not all Republicans are really Trump supporters. They're just anti-Democrat, or they're conservative, or whatever. They, in my opinion, it was reasonable to support Donald Trump for certain things, like for economic reasons, or maybe religious, like very strongly held religious reasons. You strongly oppose abortion, so you don't want to support Democrats because you are against abortion. Like those are the kinds of things that seem, they're reasonable to me, that you'd be like, oh well, yeah, of course this person is not going to vote Democrat. They're not going to vote Libertarian. They're not going to vote third party for anything, because they feel so strongly about this thing, which is a reasonable position to hold. But at this point, it's not reasonable anymore. None of it is like, since the election ended, it hasn't been reasonable, because they've been just spouting lies, and now they're literally trying to overthrow a democratic election and trying to tell Mike Pence that he has the constitutional right to decide electoral votes, which is against the bedrock of the Constitution, which they painstakingly debated over for a long time with a lot of the brightest minds in America. And they pulled ideas from some of the brightest minds in the history of the world, to try to craft this thing in a way that it prevented any particular party or any person, or I shouldn't even say party, because they hated parties. They hated political parties. I should say branch. They didn't want any specific branch or any one position in government to have that much power. And now Republicans, who are allegedly states' rights advocates and, protectors of the Constitution and patriots, they're saying that allegedly the 12th Amendment of the Constitution of the United States says that the vice president gets to choose which electors are legitimate and which are not. And the actual text of the 12th Amendment doesn't say anything like that. And you have to have some really crazy mental gymnastics to read the text of the 12th Amendment and believe that, because it literally just says the vice president in the presence of Congress will open the votes and they shall be counted. That's the extent of what the vice president's role is. So yeah, if you read the Constitution and that's what you got from it, then you have a reading comprehension problem, or you're just like confirmation bias, cognitive dissonance. Like, there's all kinds of different issues, but you did not actually read what you thought you read. And if you didn't read it, which more than likely you didn't read it, you just copied what some dumbass said on social media, then yeah, you should actually read it yourself next time. And moving forward, you should always verify things instead of just copying whatever somebody says on the internet. But again, so like, I'm so torn on all this shit, because I hate what Donald Trump is doing. I hate what his supporters are doing. I've been calling out my family and all kinds of friends and stuff like that I've known, people that I really respect, people that I love, and I will continue to love regardless of their views. I think that you're all very, very, very misinformed. And that doesn't mean that I don't think Democrats are misinformed, because they are too. And there's a huge role that has been played by the media in all of this. And this is one of the most difficult things for me, is realizing that the freedoms that we have, and like capitalist mindsets, and just like basically all of these really great, amazing things are being used for evil, essentially. I don't know how else to say it. Like, we have these constitutional rights, and they're amazing. They give us our freedom. I'm a libertarian. I believe that, the free market provides. And I've been saying that, like, about this social media censorship. I've been saying, hey, listen, guys, the free market provides. Don't worry about it. Like, there's Parler, whatever. You don't have to use Facebook. There are other platforms you can use. And I was right for a little while. And now you've got Apple and Google and all these different companies pulling it off their phones. So they don't actually have a free market. But that's also the free market. That's the same exact free market is letting Apple delete Parler off of their phones. That's the same free market that allows Parler to exist, because people didn't like Facebook, so they went off to another platform in the first place. Like, I hope you understand, like, the conundrum here. It's fucking crazy. The same exact First Amendment right that we're concerned about that Donald Trump doesn't have right now, or he's not being able to exercise because he can't get on a platform, is the same exact First Amendment right that allows these platforms to do what they want with their platform, because it's privately owned. And I had an episode. I need to put this up actually real quick. Ignore the Rant. Please go check them out. I did a Zoom call with them last night, and we talked about the whole, like, storming of the Capitol, and it was a great conversation. It was long, but it was a great conversation. And they are, Jim, the main one that I was speaking with most of the night, is he's way further right than I am. He's a libertarian, but he's like Mrs. Caucus, the Mrs. Caucus libertarian, and he's like, me and him diverge a lot on social issues. So that was interesting, and it was great. But definitely check them out. They're pretty unfiltered in what they say and talk about. So that was a great conversation. But we talked about this, and I brought it up. I was like, yeah, you guys are very concerned about these things, rightfully so. But who's doing it? Is it the government that is doing it? Is the United States government telling Donald Trump that he's not allowed to speak? Or is it a privately owned company, and they're like, oh, it's not private, and this isn't a free market economy because, this and that. Maybe that's right. Maybe you're right. We're not in a free market economy because there's different regulations and, whatever else. But if it was to the core, like the most free market economy that it possibly could be, what would stop Facebook from doing the same exact thing that's doing right now? I don't think that there's an answer to that, and they never answered me last night. I don't think that's intentional, but I never got an answer for that. And I'm not against capitalism. I'm for free market. I'm for capitalism. I just don't think that they're using it wisely. But in a country that doesn't regulate those types of things, a truly free market economy, there would be nothing that would stop, these huge corporations from, silencing voices. So it's just like, we bought a guard dog to guard our house and save our lives, and the guard dog has turned on us and attacked us and possibly killed us. I don't know if that's a good analogy or not, but it's the best I can come up with right now. But it's just sad, and I'm very concerned. I tend to be pretty optimistic about America, about the United States. Like, I've heard a lot of liberals talk about, 4th of July comes up, and they're like, oh, I'm not proud to be an American. I'm not going to celebrate that. Or I don't care about the Pledge of Allegiance, or I don't care about the national anthem or whatever. I respect your right. I respect your right to kneel. I respect your right to not sing along or whatever. But I've also always been very optimistic about those things. And I personally hold deep respect for the Constitution, for the flag, for the song, for the country, like everything that it stands for. But right now, I don't feel optimistic at all. I feel like we're shooting ourselves in the foot, and we're about to see a lot of violence. And I don't know what the solution is. I feel like there are only two ways that this can go, and neither of them are good. I think the only solution for really all of these problems is, I feel like there's only two solutions. One is that the people get violent, or two is that the government literally like forces shit through regulation and enforcing it by force, which is again violence. So it's like no matter which way we go, it's going to be violence. Because the people can rise up, or like, the free market could, like, I get like in Facebook's or Twitter's instance, it goes back to my argument about like the free market will provide, all of these people that hate the way that Facebook is using their platform. You could all just leave Facebook and not use it. You're taking their, ad revenue and your presence away from them. You're taking money out of their pocket. It's going to hurt them. You're giving your money to somebody else. Not like literally giving your money, because you don't have to pay for any of these, but that's ad space. That is a lot of money, like a ridiculous amount of money. So you're putting your attention and opening yourself up to them to make money off you on Parler or whoever else that you use. And that's one way that you can go about it. That's not working. It's not working right now. So the next option is that people get violent, and or the government regulate. Like, one solution for that would be that the government has to come down and tell Facebook, hey, you're not allowed to do that. You do not have the freedom to do this. You don't have a constitutional right or any kind of right whatsoever to silence the president, or to silence anybody for that matter. This has to be a free and open public forum, which that sounds good. Like, I love freedom of speech. That sounds good. But the government would have to enforce that. That would be more regulation. And they would have to essentially just say, like, corporations do not have the same rights as people. And I don't necessarily disagree with that. Like, I don't really understand why corporations are allowed to spend billions of dollars lobbying to politicians to get policy that is in their favor. And I also don't understand why corporations are, technically have, you're like freedom of speech or whatever. You're not a person. Like, the Constitution was written for we the people. So, but then again, you're literally asking the government to regulate more things, be more regulatory. Then that's not free market. So it's like you're contradicting yourself in some way or another. You're going to be contradicting yourself here if you're being honest with yourself. So I'm not really sure where to go from here. Oh, and the other thing I wanted to talk about is the media's role and the government's role in this too. Like, people might wonder, how did we get here? How did we get to a point where people basically share straight up fake news, like real fake news? People are trying to overthrow the government. There's just so much distrust and misinformation spreading around. Like, how did we get here? Why are we literally talking about whether or not this is a civil war or going to be a civil war? And the reason for that, in my mind, is because the government and the media have been distrustful for a very long time, and they still are, and it's on both sides. Media outlets, I'm pretty sure CNN has done it. I know for a fact that Fox has done it. They've been sued for lying, and they've gone to court, and instead of defending their story and saying, it's not a lie, it's actually true. Like, here's the evidence that it's true. What they did instead was say, I've got the First Amendment, and that protects my right to lie. This is the news. This is Fox News, and possibly CNN. I'm pretty sure, I think that CNN has done the same thing, but I cannot definitively say that right now. I know for a fact that Fox did it. And if Fox did it, it applies to everybody that's in the media because they all fall under the same umbrella. So they have, legal protection that is on the books now in the United States that says that they literally have a constitutional right to lie to the public. And this is the general public that gets information from them. Like, we look to them for our information, to be informed on politics, to be informed on current events, on fucking the weather, like everything. So that's ridiculous to me. I don't understand how that's a good thing. Like, that's where this conflict comes up with, like, should they really have that right? Is that what freedom of speech is? That the news, that freedom of press also? And they didn't even argue for freedom of press. They argued for freedom of speech. And they said that freedom of speech allows them to lie. Is that really what the founders wanted? Like, do you think that Thomas Jefferson was sitting around and he was like, hey, we should make sure that companies and media outlets and the news has freedom of speech, but we should make sure that everybody knows that they can use that freedom of speech to literally lie to the general public and misinform them. I don't think so. It doesn't make any sense to me. I don't think that the founders would have wanted news sources to blatantly lie to the public, and that's what they do. Some of it is in the form of, spinning narratives, but some of it is also in the form of just literally straight up telling lies. And, my anecdotal experience, especially lately, has been that the right, like very, very far right, are the ones that are more guilty of blatant lies. Like the Capitol siege. There's an article that's been passed around, and it's going around still right now, like days later, even though it's already been debunked, from the Washington Times, that says like such and such facial recognition software has affirmatively confirmed that this is Antifa. And they're talking about the Viking guy that stormed the Capitol, and his buddy to his left in the picture that has a tattoo on his hand that they're like, this is a Stalinist tattoo, and the Viking guy is such and such with Antifa. And then all these people were like, oh yeah, look, this is a picture of them on Antifa's website, and that's a communist tattoo, that's a sickle and hammer. It's actually not. It's a fucking video game tattoo from the game Dishonored, and both of them have been confirmed. Their identities and their real names are actually out there. They have been confirmed and identified, but they're not Antifa. They're fucking, one of them is a neo-Nazi, and the other one is just a QAnon guy. The Viking dude is just a QAnon guy. And they're like, oh, he's been at BLM rallies. Yeah, he went to BLM rallies as an anti-protester with a sign that says Q sent me, and it's talking about patriots hold the line, God will win, or something like that. But the Washington Times and all these different other media outlets are blatantly lying about it and saying with absolutely no evidence that these people are Antifa and that it really wasn't even Donald Trump's followers that did it. So that's the First Amendment for you. Like, that's what we're saying that corporations deserve to have, is the ability to make up that kind of bullshit. Like, that dude literally could die. Like, he's arrested now. The FBI fucking arrested him. But the fact of the matter is, though, this man devoted his fucking life to Donald Trump. His whole social media, his name is Jake Angeli. You can go look up his Facebook, unless he shut it down. I looked it up myself like 2 days ago, and it's not private. You can look it up. You can fucking scroll through his page, and it's all pro Donald Trump stuff. There's interviews of him talking about how great Donald Trump has done with COVID, and just all kinds of just pro Trump stuff, anti-communist stuff. This man devoted his fucking life to protesting for Donald Trump, and then he storms the Capitol building trying to overturn the election for Donald Trump, and he gets accused of being Antifa online. Like, how crazy is that? This man devoted his life to Donald Trump, and people called him Antifa. There's no doubt in my mind that somebody that believes that would have said, I'm going to fucking kill you. I'm going to murder you. I'm going to fucking plant a bomb at your house. Like, and they've done that with Dominion. They did a bomb threat to Dominion's headquarters in Denver. Even though that there hasn't actually been any fucking evidence come out about Dominion actually overturning votes. They've had 2 months now, and they just keep saying, oh, we're going to come out with it. We're going to come out with it. Shit, just today, my mom was posting, there's one post that says, Donald Trump's going to make a live press conference on Newsmax at 7 p.m. Everybody tune in. And then you look in the comment section, and they're like, hey, it's 7:30. Like, did he ever do it? No, he didn't do it because some random person on fucking Parler made this thing up. And then they're like, oh, no, it changed. He's going to do it at 9 p.m. And then they change, like, is it at Newsmax or is it on this website or this website? And then all of a sudden it changed again to, oh, he's actually going to do it tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. and he's going to use the emergency broadcast system and he's going to announce. They go into detail about how he's going to announce. He's going to use the POTUS Twitter account and he's going to say 7 different things. And these are the exact quotes that he's going to say. And he's going to implement martial law for 10 days. And like they go into painstaking detail describing all of this shit. That's all fake. It's all fucking fake. But because they went into all this detail about it, people are like, oh, well, how would they know that he was going to say these exact words unless they had the real information? And it's just like, the fuck? I just don't get it. So that's the role that the media and the government have played, is that they've just created this constant cycle of bullshit, spinning narratives and stuff like that. And so I picked on the right a whole bunch. We can talk about the left now for a second. Just, I doubt that Trump supporters are really even watching this. If they were watching it, they probably already fucking ended the video by now. But just to be fair, I'll talk about Democrats now and the left and CNN, because I said that I know for a fact that Fox had a lawsuit. I don't know if CNN had a lawsuit or not, but I know for a fact that they fucking lie, and they have lied. And I've talked to Democrats about it, and they try to justify it and say that it's not a lie. But like the information about Charlottesville, I will not argue that Donald Trump is not a racist. I will never argue that Donald Trump is not a racist. I think that he is. I think he doesn't realize it. I think his followers also don't realize that they are also racist. But for them to say that he didn't denounce racism and hate at Charlottesville is a lie. If you read the full actual fucking comments that he made, he said, there are good people on both sides. When he said that, it's taken out of context, which is a lie because you deliberately fucking did it. He was talking about people that are on both sides of the debate about removing Confederate statues. I think that everybody probably knows somebody that has some type of connection to the I mean, at least if you live in the South, you probably do. You probably know somebody that's like just has like Southern pride, quote unquote. Go watch my video about the Confederate flag. Please go watch my video. It's very relevant. But you can have like this weird connection with the Confederate flag, which I had when I was younger, and you just connect it to Southern pride because you're told that it wasn't about racism. You're told that the Civil War wasn't about racism. You're told that the Civil War is about states' rights. I mean, hopefully you grow up and at some point you realize that they were fighting for states' rights, but they were fighting for states' rights to have slaves. And it is about racism and it is about slavery. But we're not told that growing up. Like my family and my friends that I grew up around that loved the Confederate flag, they loved it because it was like a symbol of fucking Southern heritage. Like, hey, I like to hunt, I like to fish. Like I'm a real man. I'm a fucking alpha male. I can live off the land kind of shit. That's what we think, or that's what I thought. You know, those are the emotions and feelings that I got from the flag when I grew up and I saw it. And then I grew up and I learned the history and thought about it for myself, and I was like, hold on a second. States' rights, check. States' rights to keep slaves, yeah, no, fuck that. That's racist. So, anyways, Donald Trump said that there are good people on both sides. I think that there's the capacity for somebody to be a good person and not be a blatant racist and still think that the Confederate flag is okay. But what he said after that was, I guess I should just look it up right now. Just to say what his exact words were. All right. Okay, so I found a BBC article. BBC is a reputable source that's like people use, like liberals use BBC as a good source all the time, constantly. I've watched very strong liberals rely on BBC. So this is a BBC article that says Trump denounces KKK and racism in Charlottesville. He said that whites, neo-Nazis, the Ku Klux Klan, and white supremacists are, quote, repugnant to everything that Americans hold dear. And there's a 5-minute compilation video on YouTube that you can look up of him over the span of 4 or 5 years saying those same kind of things about the Klan is repugnant, white supremacy has no place in America. Does that mean that he's not racist? No, it doesn't. But why would you just blatantly lie on CNN and say he didn't denounce racism? He never renounces racism. 4 years later, we get to the fucking presidential debates and they say, you've never renounced racism. Will you finally do it for us? And it's like, yeah, he fucked that up. He didn't actually really denounce racism when he was asked, and he had the spotlight to say it in front of everybody. And I criticized him for it. But the reality of the situation is that he actually has done it multiple times. He just hasn't gotten fair coverage. And to me, that is a lie. That's a blatant lie when you are misrepresenting the facts. Like, I don't really know how you can defend that. And that's the type of shit that fuels the right. When the right says, you know, if somebody that supports Donald Trump sees his full statement from Charlottesville, and they see that he said the Klan is repugnant, white supremacy is repugnant, hate is repugnant, and none of it stands for what Americans hold dear. And then they flip on CNN and they see Donald Trump refuses to denounce racism. How the fuck are they supposed to trust you? So they automatically are just not going to buy into that narrative. And that's how that whole, the liberal media thing, you know, the liberal media is lying. The liberal media has a narrative. They do have a fucking narrative. And it is part of the problem and is absolutely part at fault here. 1,000% I believe that. And then full circle, YouTube and Facebook banning posts or marking posts, whatever they're doing, it plays right back into it, because if you're shutting them down, it gives them this opportunity to say, hurry up and share this because the truth is being silenced. And then it gets deleted and they're like, yeah, look, see, they don't want us to know it because it's true. We're exposing them and they're going to shut it down because it's real. So once again, yes, Facebook and YouTube, you have the right to do that. Is it actually helping you, though? I don't think so. I think it's making everything worse. Because if you leave it up and then it gets verified to be fake, then somebody else can post underneath it and say, hey, look, this is actually fake. Just like the Antifa stuff, that, you know, the stuff going about Antifa stormed the Capitol. People are sharing that on Facebook right now, and it's not being removed. And myself and others have been able to get on those posts and prove it wrong. And I think that that's the best outcome that can happen here. I don't know if people are going to take that evidence or not, because it's gotten so everything's gotten so fucking polarized at this point that it's just like there's actually no standard of evidence that people believe anymore. It's like, if it didn't come from their source, then it's not believable. And that's scary. That's really scary. Like, I could say 2 + 2 is 4, and they're like, yeah, well, that's from CNN, though. So, I don't think 2 + 2 is 4 anymore. 2 + 2 is actually 5. They've been lying to you this whole time. See, look, 2 + 2 is 5. And you know what? Another funny thing about it is that it's not just the right that is talking about how the news is distrustful. The minority community, black people in particular, have been talking about media coverage forever. Like, the media and the government are responsible for creating the narrative of the black criminal. That's like the pictures that you see and shit like that is because the media has done it in history, and the government has pushed those same things in history. And the government has not been trusted in history because they've done fucked up things, like inject black people with syphilis without actually telling them in the Tuskegee experiments, stuff like that. And that's the same exact thing that makes people not trust fucking vaccines in the science community, because you're like, oh yeah, I should trust vaccines and the government, and I should trust the media. But yet the media portrays black people as if they're criminals, and if a black person dies, they show them in a picture wearing a hoodie with a grill on. But if a white woman dies storming the Capitol, they talk about how she's a veteran, and whatever, show pictures of her smiling as an Air Force veteran, instead of talking about the fact that she has fucking restraining orders and a criminal history record. Like, that's the same media that people are defending. Like, I'm not going to say who it was, but I had somebody very close to me that's a liberal defending the media the other day, like, oh, well, I'm just very strongly against, even being critical of the media at all, because they're like, that's democracy, that's like a constitutional right. And other countries that are socialist, like Cuba, they don't have that, and the government gets to control the entire narrative and feed them propaganda. So if we lose freedom of speech or freedom of the press, then like we're turning into, like, that's actually turning into, and that's a respectable point. That's great. But that doesn't mean that they should be able to lie, just like blatantly lie. Like, I mean, that's essentially, it's the same thing. They're doing the same thing. You're just getting there by different means. Like, the end is the same, but the means are different. So in fucking socialist Cuba, or communism, or a fascist dictatorship, whatever the fuck you want to call it, they're lying to their people for the government. But in the United States, they're still lying to the people, but just for like whatever narrative that they want. Like, ultimately, it's just money. I think. I mean, that's my personal opinion. It's just money. It's a 24/7 news cycle. They have to get clicks. They have to get fucking follows and likes, and make money somehow, and have ad revenue. So they have to constantly be telling a story. They always have to be pushing something. So they don't care if they get facts right. They just want to be the first one to report it, and they want it to be sensational. So if they have to twist the facts a little bit to fit their narrative, and make sure that they're the first ones that get a story out, then fuck it. They're going to make their money. So that's a fucking issue. That's a problem. But yeah, the gist of my rant now is the fact that if you don't, and I'm obviously, I can't make this statement for all black people, but a lot of my close friends that I have talked with, people that are very very much capable of seeing the bullshit on both sides. That they're not necessarily third party people, libertarians or anything. Like, most of these guys that I'm talking about are they vote Democrat. They don't agree with everything Democrats do, but they vote Democrat. They have been ones that have privately messaged me and talked about like the media's narrative, and they're like, these are Democrats that are super strong pro Black Lives Matter, voting blue. And they're the ones that are messaging me too and saying, like, dude, look at how the media is dividing people. Look at this source and this source, left wing and right wing. They're lying to us. So this isn't just like a fucking right-wing Trump conspiracy thing. Like, this is verifiable that the media is part of the problem. And again, I don't know what the fucking solution is other than to reinterpret the Constitution and how it applies to like public entities and stuff like that. And I guess the last thing that I should touch on is Section 230, because people, I feel like, are very fucking misinformed on it. And this is a right-wing thing. So people that are pro, private rights and constitutional rights and stuff like that, free market, they are saying essentially that they want more regulation on social media. And they're like, no, we don't actually, it's not that we want more regulation. We just want them to not be immune from regulation. You're wanting more regulation, by the way. But they want them to be able to be sued, essentially, is what it is. They want Facebook to be able to get sued. But Section 230 doesn't do what they think it does. They're like, yeah, the reason that they're allowed to moderate things the way that they do is because of Section 230. It prevents them from being liable for whatever. Section 230 actually only protects them from being liable for things that like a third party posts. So that means like all of the millions or billions of people that use Facebook cannot be sued if somebody on their platform says something that's slanderous or says something that's a lie. So like, for example, if a Trump supporter gets on Facebook and says that Jake Angeli, the guy that stormed the Capitol, is from Antifa, and Jake Angeli's life gets threatened for it, and he loses his job and like whatever else, Facebook cannot get sued for that because they're not the ones that did it. Somebody else said it. And if you want them to get sued for that, you're asking for more censorship. Because if Facebook is going to be held liable for every single fucking comment that every one of the millions or billions of people on their platform say, what the fuck do you think that they're going to do? They're going to censor you more. They're not going to not censor you. They're not going to let you fucking spew lies and bullshit on Facebook. They're going to censor the fuck out of you. They're already doing it, but that's going to make it worse. If you're like, hey, we can fucking sue the shit out of you, millions of lawsuits are about to pour in against Facebook. Yeah, they're going to fucking sue you, and they might just not even exist as a company anymore because they probably wouldn't be able to keep up with it. So it's ironic, and it's also just misinformation. Like, people, I don't know who the fuck you're getting your information from, but they're lying to you. Like, talk to, I don't know, like, look up hashtag law Twitter. Look up hashtag law Twitter. That's the easiest way that I can think of for you to find law professors, people that have literally dedicated their entire life to studying the law. There's a lot of them. They're very strongly voicing their opinions all over Twitter. They have law review blogs. They've got fucking their own websites. They've got their own podcasts. And there's a bunch of them that are, very passionate about the Constitution. Listen to those people. Like, why are you getting your information from some random fucking idiot on Parler? Or, I don't know, wherever else you're getting your information from. If you want to learn about the law, go to people that actually study the law. People that have dedicated their life to the law. Talk to them about it. Or see, like, how is this actually interpreted by the Supreme Court? That's what you need to know, not just some random shit that somebody fucking spouted off on Facebook. Just because they might use the right terminology and they might use a lot of details, it could sound convincing, but that doesn't mean it's true. For example, the 12th Amendment thing about Mike Pence. Read the Constitution. Where's it at? This is a pocket constitution that I have that I reference every now and then. It has, up to, or up through, I should say, the Bill of Rights, which is the first 10 amendments. And then I'm in law school, so obviously I have the constitutional law book. But all of this information that's in this book, I can, well, maybe not every single one, maybe not all of it, but most of that information is Googleable, or I can fucking go hashtag law Twitter on Twitter and talk to a law professor about it, comment in their comment section, be like, hey, I got this question. Could you tell me about it? They'll probably give you a fucking law review article or something, or send you to a YouTube channel that has a video about it. You don't have to take somebody else's word for it. You can find out for yourself. You can do your own actual research. Do your own research. If you read Section 230, you would know that it has nothing to do with moderating other people's shit. It has everything to do with Facebook just not having to be held liable for all of the millions or billions of posts that are on their page, you know, in case somebody else is slanderous, because it would lead to a ridiculous amount of lawsuits and they would have to censor more people. Like, that's the purpose of it. And if you did your own research and you read the 12th Amendment of the Constitution, you would know that it says nothing about Mike Pence choosing electors. So I think I'm just going to end with that. I hope that this isn't civil war, but I think it might be. I think it already happened. I think it already started. It's about to get nasty. I'll say this though, I guarantee you, if it is, liberals, you're about to fucking appreciate the Second Amendment, and you're gonna wish you had a fucking AR-15, and you're gonna wish you had fucking body armor. And I'm glad that I have both. The last thing I will say is that I hope that you appreciate this video. I hope you appreciate my point of view here. These are the types of things that I think we need to talk about. And when I say these types of things, I mean root causes. That's why I'm going into detail about distrust in government, distrust in the media, and their rights that they do have, and, you know, debate about whether or not they should have those rights. You know, when we talk about gun violence, or we talk about healthcare or stuff like that, or maybe not healthcare, but gun violence specifically, we talk about the tool that's used to murder people, but we don't ever talk about the root causes that lead to gun violence. We're talking about now that Donald Trump is the issue, or censorship is the issue, or, you know, whatever else the tool is. The liberal media is the tool. Donald Trump is the tool. Fucking censorship from Facebook is the tool. What's the root cause? Like, what actually caused all of this unrest? That's how we solve it. It might be too late to solve it, but these are the types of things that we need to be talking about. Root causes and actual solutions. There's one specific comment that a leader of mine in the military, when I had first gotten in, said to me, and it stuck with me. And I brought an issue to him, but I didn't bring that issue with a solution. And that's what he said to me. He said, I don't want to just hear the issue. I want you to come to me with that issue and tell me what you think the solution is. And I think that that's what we need to do now, is say, hey, I've got this problem. This is how we can solve it. So that's what we need to be doing, talking about root causes and actual solutions. So with that, I bid you adieu. Good night. I love you, America. I hope we don't die. I hope the country survives. I hope democracy survives. I hope the Constitution survives. Amen and a woman. No, I'm just kidding. All right, bye.